Hello everybody, Chef Bravo here for Bravo Plant-Based Channel and BravoPV.com. Today's demonstration, what I'm going to do for you guys and everybody here in the audience is I'm going to do a couple of cabbage dishes. One raw, one cooked, and there's actually a reason why I picked cabbage today. I had a conversation with somebody about the fact that, or his perception of a plant-based diet being expensive. You know, it's expensive to sort of eat plant-based / vegan, and that's not the case. So we'll talk about that a little bit. Sound good? All right, so here we go, a couple of cabbage dishes for you. I'm gonna start the raw dish first because it needs a little bit of time to marinate. It isn't any more expensive to be plant-based. Right now, it's even less compared to eating meat. The price of meat has just gone up quite a bit. So cabbage is one of them, where you can buy a lot of it relatively cheap. If you averaged out the price of potatoes and rice and garbanzos, which are going to make an appearance here in a bit, lentils, polenta, all of those other things where you can get a bulk of your calorie intake, the price of eating plant-based, it's relatively small. So let's just get right to it. I have a bowl here of shredded green cabbage, and I brought a little piece of red cabbage so that I can give it a little bit of color. I'm going to set it right here for now. Basically, I'm just going to shred this. And the reason I'm using this is just to give it a little bit of color. As with any other dish, I want whatever I'm serving to have eye appeal to it. The flavor of red cabbage is not that much different from green cabbage, but by adding just a little bit of the red here, I can give it a nice accent. And so if I mix this, suddenly a boring bowl of cabbage has become a two-color boring bowl of cabbage. Okay, we're not done with it. Obviously, there's much to do still. But just by adding a little shreds of the red, you can see how the color pops quite a bit. Okay. Yes, sir.
Do you use vegetable choppers?
Do I use vegetable choppers? Nope, hardly ever. So most everything I do is with a knife, or you'll see this in a second, my mandolin, food processor, and that's about it. This guy here takes care of 85% of the work. Yeah. Okay, so to this, I am now going to add some carrots, and I want this to be sort of in that same shredded kind of thing. So I could sort of cut slices and then sort of hold them like a deck of cards and go the other way. Or I can just use one of these cool vegetable slicers. So I check and I get this nice sort of shred on here. So this is an old recipe of mine. I believe it's in my first book, the Bravo cookbook. And I wanted to come up with a nice alternative, a tasty alternative for a regular coleslaw. You know, the one that's got normally a bunch of mayo or sour cream or whatnot. So I wanted to have that essence of a coleslaw without all that greasy component to it. Let me see. They did not bring a glove, but that's okay. So I'll use this guy. Okay, so we went from a boring bowl of cabbage to a two-color boring bowl of cabbage to a bowl of vegetables that I don't necessarily want to eat, but it looks pretty. okay? So I've kind of accomplished the eye appeal, okay? Now I gotta make sure that it tastes good and it's got a nice sort of texture to it, okay? So with every ingredient that I add to this, you know, the idea is to just raise it to another level and another level and to another level. Sound good? Okay. Now, I am going to I don't know how well you can see it. I'll show it here to the camera. Is there anything you notice about this?
It's pretty. It's dry.
Who said that?
Dry.
Dry? Yeah, it's dry. So if you look at something like that, your brain almost goes, you know, that might look pretty, it's colorful, but if I have to chew through that, it's gonna be a lot of work, okay? So your brain is already doing this sort of a cost analysis assessment of how much work do I have to put into that, and is it really worth it? You know, is there enough sort of calories that I'm gonna get back from it? And yeah, being that it's dry, your brain automatically does it. So we're going to add some moisture to it. Within this bowl here, I have this sort of salty-ish flavor, this maybe a savory flavor from the cabbage, and I have a little bit of sweetness from the carrots. Okay, so now I'm adding a sour component to this, as well as the moisture aspect. So this is sort of a raw, sort of a pickled kind of thing. So I'm gonna add quite a bit of lemon juice. You could say I'm adding too much, okay? Once I'm finished adding the lemon juice, the flavor of this would be too acidic, okay? I'm gonna take it too far on purpose. Yes?
Do you do anything with the lemons after you squeeze them?
We compost them.
Okay.
Yeah.
Because I just throw them away, and I think there must be something to do with that.
There are things you can do with them, but we don't do it here. Yeah. Okay, so here, I have one more. Now, can anybody guess why I would what would be the advantage of purposely taking this too far and making it too sour?
Would soften the cabbage?
It's gonna soften up the cabbage, yeah. The acidity in the lemons is gonna help soften it. That's good. Anything else?
You're gonna add something sweet, so take it back to
Correct, that's it. So I'm gonna add yet another component to it, which is gonna balance out that flavor. That's good. And that component here is some apples. So again, I don't know if every coleslaw out there traditionally has these ingredients, but there's at least one of them out there that does.
Move the bowl.
Yeah, of course. All right. And I'm just gonna cut these in squares.
You don't do it.
Nope, I'm gonna leave it alone. The reason for that is, if I just use, here I'll take the peel off of this one right here. If I'm just using this guy here, and I've got, you know, the sort of, can everybody see that?
It's not pretty.
The color of the apple sort of blends in with the color of the cabbage. So by leaving the color of the apple skin in there, see if I replace that, suddenly there's a little bit more, okay? So that's the reason, one of the reasons. The other reason is that if I take the time to peel the apples, okay, I now have to work faster because the apples will start to turn, okay? And I don't want the apples to turn, to start oxidizing, okay? Because oxidized apples tell you what?
Old.
Old, automatically, you just go, oh, that's old, okay? And it might not be at all, but that's how your brain thinks. For that reason, that was why I added the lemon juice to the mixture before I added the apples. So that when the apples go into the bowl, the acidity is right there waiting for them, okay? Acidity such as in lemons or oranges or vinegar prevent apples from getting that oxidized look to them, okay? Yeah, but if I started, say I was doing the apples before anything else, so I did the apples and then the cabbage and then the carrots, by then the apples start to turn, okay? So when the apples hit the bowl, I want that acidity right there waiting for them. All right, and I'm successfully making a mess. Okay. So now it's looking a little prettier, okay? And what do you notice from before to now?
Moist.
Moist, there's a shine to it. So a shine tells your brain there is moisture in there. Okay, now, good. Okay, I'm not gonna have to work so hard to chew that and be able to swallow, okay? Make sense? Okay. So to this, you know, if I just did that, this would be kind of a nice sort of coleslaw. It's got the cabbage and the carrots, you know, it's got some of the ingredients, it's got some apples for sweetness. And there's a lemon in there for the acidity that's gonna start cooking and pickling the cabbage and soften it up. But, you know, it's, you think, well, do I want to eat this or do I want to eat the regular coleslaw? Because it's going to be sort of creamier, richer, okay? So that's where this guy is sort of trailing behind. Except, come on in. We can add yet my final ingredient, which is toasted pine nuts, okay? And the nuttiness of the pine nuts, along with the apples and the lemon and that bulk of the thing, which is the cabbage, becomes a really, really nice dish. So you may not see them, but trust me, when you taste some of this and you bite into it, you're like, ooh, there's some nice nuttiness to this. Again, from the pine nuts. And so, fairly simple. I would leave this out maybe, or let it marinate maybe for 15-ish minutes, okay? At that point, that's when I really should add the pine nuts, so they're still sort of crunchy when you bite into them. As they sit in there, they're gonna start getting soft. They won't lose their flavor, that nice nuttiness will stay there, but they'll just get soft. So ideally, pine nuts last minute before you add them. But fairly simple, okay? And raise your hand if you're eating. Okay, so we'll have a couple people taste and then they'll they can tell you how it is. So let me present it just a little bit better here. Get rid of this. There's a reason why I brought this.
That's the sample size?
No, this is serving size, and then we can. There we go. Always looks better on a nice white plate. Get some height. Okay. There it is. There's the first one. Rather simple. Okay. Questions on this? Yes.
What if you use like a cider vinegar? Because a lot of times that's used in coleslaw.
You could use a cider vinegar, absolutely. Yeah. The lemon itself there is just there to provide the acidity, but apple cider, lime, red wine vinegar, you know, if you prefer one vinegar or one citrus juice over the other, use that. Yeah, absolutely.
What about Napa cabbage? Same treatment, Bridget?
Napa cabbage, same treatment. Savoy cabbage, same. Okay. So again, the cabbage is there more than anything to give me bulk. Okay, to say I'm gonna make enough for 4 people, And it isn't gonna cost me a whole lot because the bulk of it is cabbage. So now let's make a cooked cabbage. Raw cabbage itself, to me, it's not necessarily pleasant. That's why, you know, giving it that 15 minutes to this particular dish to marinate, to sort of soften it up, to get that sort of extra cruciferous sort of flavor, you know, mellow that out, is important. If you cook it, that gets taken care of by the heat. Okay? So really quick, I'm gonna make this a sort of a Asian sort of flair kind of thing. So I have some shallots. The reason I brought a shallot, someone always asks, it's like, why are you using a shallot versus a green onion or a red onion or a yellow onion? Very simple. This was the closest onion I had to me while I was putting the demo together. Had the red onions been closer, I would have grabbed that. Okay. A shallot is part of the onion family. Okay. It is typically a more of a mellower, milder sort of onion flavor. It isn't so much raw onion in your face kind of a thing. They are more expensive. They are preferred by chefs again for that sort of mellow flavor. But they are more expensive, okay? They are more work to peel. Sometimes, you know, this is sort of a nice size one. Sometimes they're little, okay? And the layers are really stuck on there. So if I were to make this twice, once using a shallot, everything else the same, and then I did right after that, I brought up another pan and I made it again using a yellow onion, you would not know the difference, okay? I mean, you'd have to be like so super in tune, you know, that you would notice. So it really doesn't matter so much. If you like the flavor, because it's got that sort of milder and you don't mind paying extra, fine. Otherwise, just grab some red onions, yellow onions, it's all good. Let's see it.
Is the shallot a hybrid?
It is not. It's just a different, you know, different sister on the onion family. You have the red onion, yellow, white, shallots, green onions, leeks. You have torpedo onions. You have the little pearl ones, tiny ones. We have the cipollinis. There is Vidalias are actually yellow. They get their particular flavor because of the region where they're grown, but they're not different than.
So sweet.
Yeah, their sweetness comes from the region, not from the onion itself. I forget what all the other ones are, but you know, it's just one of the members of the family, essentially. Okay, so I got myself some onion there. I have some ginger here, which I'm going to do in slices, and then I'm going to cut it into strips. This is part of where that Asian flavor is going to come.
Is that real potent?
Is that, I'm sorry?
Potent? Because it looks like you're using a little bit for all that stuff.
Yeah, it can be
Okay.
rather strong, but you might think, is there somebody here who thinks, let me see if I can get it all in there. Anybody here thinks, wow, that's way too much? Yeah?
Yeah.
Okay.
I never cooked with that.
So it's sort of the same thought process as, you know, I overdid the lemon here, okay? This is quite a bit of ginger, but because of the other stuff that I'm gonna add, you know, it's gonna balance itself out, okay? So my onions and ginger are in there now. And this is where it might start to get very aromatic for some of you. I can actually smell them. And then as I mentioned earlier, allergies are. Okay, I have some cabbage here, which I'm quickly going to dice. Maybe, I don't need all of it. So this is more of a cubed cabbage rather than the shredded that I did earlier. Okay. And I'll show you. I'm getting a little bit of that browning happening here with the onions and the. That's a dry saute. Once I start getting a little bit of that golden browning effect happen, I go ahead and add my cabbage. Okay. Now I move it around. So this by itself would be, you know, quite the strong flavor of cabbage and ginger, you know, if you were to eat some of this. It would be too much. Your senses would get overwhelmed. But we're gonna mellow it out. And we're gonna add other ingredients to it that it's gonna sort of give it interest.
I'm sorry, you just have the shallots in there?
Shallots, ginger, and cabbage.
Ginger, okay,
Yeah.
and water? Any water?
Nope.
No water.
It's dry.
What's your temp on, medium?
Medium high. Yeah. Okay. Now, to continue my sort of Asian flair, I'm gonna add some curry to it, some yellow curry, which is gonna push it even further to that spicy, strong flavor kind of thing. But that's okay.
Got a tablespoon?
Some more.
Yeah, I don't. I measure it. How did you add the ginger? I didn't see it. Did you grate it?
No, I sliced it.
You sliced it? Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
Okay. So let me see if I can show you guys real quick. So that's what the, get over here. Can you guys see on the side here? So that's what the side of that pan is, the bottom of the pan is starting to look like. Okay. And so now I have to sort of mellow out all these strong curry, ginger, you know, cabbage flavors. Simple. We're gonna add a little sweetness to it, a little sugar, a little pineapple juice. So this is, I'm thinking, like if you go to a Thai restaurant and they have that, what's it, pineapple fried rice kind of thing. So that's sort of the idea.
Did you also put chopped pineapple in it?
I'm sorry?
Did you put like chopped pineapple or?
You could. I could do, instead of the juice, put some chopped pineapple chunks and, you know, you're good. Okay. So now that sweetness from the pineapple is gonna give it the balance that I'm looking for. Because like I said, with just the cabbage and the ginger, and the curry, it was gonna be too much. Okay, it was just gonna be like a spoonful and be like, whoa, that's way too strong. Okay, but that nice sweetness of the pineapple. And now I'm using it as the, now that I put the lid on it, I'm using it sort of as a cooking, steaming liquid in there. So the sweetness is there, and now I'm going to give it a prolonged or an extended cooking time, which means the cabbage is going to mellow out even more because I'm cooking it longer. Make sense? Okay. So we'll give it, you know, it doesn't have to go very long. I'm going to give it maybe 30 seconds. Okay. But let me see. I don't want to spill it. What's missing? Can you guys? Color, yes, thank you. So it's kind of like the same thing we started out here. It's like, well, you know, It's just cabbage. You know, what else can we put on there? So I brought in a little bit of cilantro to add to it. And to continue that sort of Asian flair that I'm trying to accomplish here, I also brought some black sesame seeds, okay, which has that sesame seed flavor, but in a, you know, very, very dark color. I could use regular sesame seeds and toast them up, but they would get lost in here, okay, because of that curry color.
You ever had potato?
I could add potato, certainly, yeah. I'm gonna actually add some garbanzos to it to give it some, a little bit more nutrition, a little bit more substance, okay? So it isn't just a cabbage dish, but going back to the whole financial aspect of this, garbanzo beans are rather cheap as well. So you could have this sort of substantial dish with, you know, legumes and vegetables and some nice seasoning in there for a very, very cheap price. So just enough so the garbanzos heat up.
Would you serve that over rice?
Could serve it next to, you know, with the side of rice. I guess you could do it over some rice as well. Buckwheat,
Oh, any grain.
any grain, quinoa, yep. Maybe even some forbidden black rice as well. Okay, so now I'm going to add my cilantro to it. Add some of my black sesame seeds. And see, even before I mix it, you know, boom, the colors just pop. And it smells tasty.
Do you make a lot of cauliflower rice?
Do I make a...
Cauliflower rice, what do you think about just that?
I don't get too much into that, but I like it. Yeah. We have this sort of staff meal thing that we do with, we take some cauliflower and, you know, make it into like a rice kind of thing. But we make ceviche out of it. So it's a sort of cauliflower ceviche that we do. All right. So there's that, maybe a little bit more cilantro over the top. And a little bit more of that. Boom.
That's nice. Oh, man. I want to eat that.
Thank you. As you saw me do this, you know, probably if I wasn't entertaining all of you guys, this is a 5-minute dish. You know, it's like boom, boom, boom. Both of these are, you know, in the 5 to 10 minute dish kind of thing. And, you know, cabbage is cheap. Yeah. So,
And you said both of these are in your book?
this one is. This I just thought of as I was putting the demonstration together because I wanted to go with the sort of cabbage is cheap kind of angle. All right, so I hope you guys all enjoyed this. A couple of cabbage dishes here for, again, Chef Bravo, Bravo Plant-Based Channel, and BravoPB.com. Thank you for watching. Please hit the subscribe button.